welcome back to my channel. My name is Chanel if you're new here, and this video is going to be very chatty. We're going to break down all of the culture shocks that I've experienced since living here in Buenos Aires. I am from New York. I moved here to Buenos Aires, Argentina in July of 2023, and I have loved every single second of being here, the ups and the downs. But of course, I have experienced some culture shocks along the way, and we're gonna talk about them. So I'm really excited for this video. This video is just going to be a long, chatty video. If you want to like have a mate, if you want to listen to this as a podcast while you're driving, while you're on the treadmill, while you're walking the dog, whatever you want to do, this is going to be a very chatty one. So if you are living here in Buenos Aires or in Argentina from a different country, let me know your culture shocks down below. And if you're from Argentina living somewhere else, let me know your culture shocks too that you're experiencing, because those are so interesting for me to hear. But let's just go ahead and hop right into the video. We are going to talk about a variety of categories. The first category that we're going to talk about is life and money. And if you see me looking down a lot, I have a big list in front of me of things that I do not want to miss. So that's why I'm looking down a lot. But we're going to talk about life and money first. And I feel like one of the biggest aspects and culture shocks that you experience here living in Buenos Aires, if you're not from Argentina, is living and surviving here without a DNI, because not having a DNI here in Argentina to buy things can be extremely difficult and honestly very stressful. Here in Argentina, they don't have Amazon, but they have like their version of Amazon, which is Mercado Libre. If you don't have a DNI, you likely can't get into their Amazon Mercado Libre. Buying orders online, buying like anything online is almost impossible without a DNI. We had trouble finding an internet provider to come to our house because we didn't have a DNI to set up internet. And we just found that not having a DNI here, like, it limits us in what we're able to buy. And the obvious solution is to try to use your passport or your driver's license from your home country. And sometimes that works and sometimes that does not work. When we first needed to like really buy things, especially when we moved into this apartment, we came across that struggle so often and it was so difficult to get things. Now we're doing better. Like, we know where to go. We know which stores allow us to pay with like our passport or a driver's license and that we don't need our DNI. But not having the DNI is like, it's very hard as a foreigner, I'm not going to lie. And as a side note, we are going to talk about food separately, but since I already brought up the DNI, I did want to mention that it was very surprising to me when I moved here and Michael and I would eat at a restaurant that if we wanted to pay like with our card or credit card or our debit card, that we would also have to give a DNI. And for us, it could have been a passport or our driver's license. But like, giving your DNI, in my opinion, is like giving someone your social security card. And could you imagine in the US if you went to pay with a credit card that you also had to give them your social security card to like verify it was you? That would just not happen in the US at all. So that was very surprising to me. I think now with the new law that has changed, I think if you're paying with a credit card, like, you have to do it right at the table. They can't take your card, they can't take your DNI and then bring it back. I think you have to pay right at the table when you're paying. So I think that has changed, but still, when we first came, it was not like that. So that was very surprising for us too. And with the DNI and needing to pay for things, we always pay with our card, a credit card or a debit card, or with cash. But again, that is very difficult because a lot of places do not accept card, and I don't like carrying a bunch of cash on me. And I don't have Mercado Pago because I don't have a DNI. I don't have a bank account here because I don't have a DNI, so I can't do a bank transfer. So paying with card, I found that it has been a little bit tricky, especially if I'm going to a new area. And sometimes like I think about it twice. I'm like, well, if I were to pay with my debit card, isn't it like the same exact thing as paying with my bank account, like as a bank transfer? But I can't do a bank transfer because I don't have an Argentine bank account, and I'm in a few WhatsApp groups of foreigners trying to get Argentine bank accounts with their passports, and some of them works out for them and for some of them it doesn't. But I have found that to be very shocking and honestly a little bit difficult trying to pay with my credit card. Again, not impossible. If you have cash, it's fine, but I just don't like carrying cash on me. I never have, and quite frankly, I don't think I ever will. And outside of that, we are going to be chatting so much. I have so much to say. I have been waiting a long time to make this video. The next thing that I wanted to talk about was in the life category, like living in an apartment here, whether it's furnished or unfurnished as a foreigner, because in the US, in New York, where I'm from, like you would sign a year contract. I don't think I've ever even been offered like a 3-month contract, a 6-month contract. It has always been the standard to like do it for 1 full year, regardless if it was furnished or unfurnished. But here, as a foreigner, I found that it's really, really common to have 3-month contracts. So you sign for 3 months, and then at the end of the 3 months, you can choose if you want to sign again or if you want to leave. And I think that's a good thing from like a foreigner perspective, because if you don't like the apartment, if you don't like the furniture, if your neighbors are noisy, if there's, I don't know, whatever that's going on, you have like the opportunity to leave, like you're not locked in. And then from the other perspective, if you're like the landlord, you can raise the price of rent if you wanted to, or find new tenants that, you know, may serve you better or something like that. So I do see the advantages of it, but for me, I don't like having to think about moving every 3 months. That is so stressful in my mind. When I'm in a place, I want to be in the place for at least a year, especially if I have my own furniture. And if you are new here, Michael and I are renting this 1-bedroom apartment. We found it online. We are renting with a direct landlord. We pay the blue rate in pesos here. So we found a contract that works for us. But when we were navigating all of this, we found a lot of 3-year contracts or 3-month contracts. And it didn't matter if we wanted to furnish it ourselves. All of this furniture you see is ours, it's mine and Michael's, or if we wanted to rent an unfurnished apartment. We did have a little difficulties trying to find a place with our pets. We have a dog and a cat who live with us from New York. We brought them with us, of course we did. So the pet thing was a little bit difficult, and to find a landlord who would rent to us for a year was also not difficult, but it was a little bit more time consuming on our end. But at the end, we were happy, but I know there are people who are also happy with a 3-month or 3-year contract as well. But I think that has maybe changed too. We signed here in December of 2023 before the new government came into play. So that may be different now. I've heard a lot of things. We're not searching for an apartment right now. We're actually talking with our landlord like this week to see what would be the price and how it would all work out if we wanted to sign longer. So I will keep you updated with that on how that journey rolls out. And of course, we are renting this unfurnished. We brought all of our furniture in, and I mentioned this in a different vlog. A very surprising thing was the fact that if you're renting unfurnished, you have to add in like your own lights, your own light fixtures. You have to put them in there yourselves. There's no like above lamping, there's no like above light anything. It's just like a light bulb hanging from the ceiling. And when we first moved in here, we were like, why did our landlord not add a light fixture? Like, this is so not good. And I posted about it in a video, and so many of you were like, that is just how it is. Like, you get to choose your own light fixture, which is like, I get it, but from in New York where that is not the thing, it's a little bit shocking. It's culturally a shock for me. And another thing I'd noticed, I think this is like the last sort of money aspect of this video, is talking about contracts, because in my perspective from the US, coming from New York, if I signed a contract, let's say with my gym, saying that I was going to pay $20 for a year, that contract stayed $20 a month for the whole year. January $20, February $20, March $20. It didn't increase at all. And if there were to be a price increase, it would increase if I wanted to resign, and they would tell me about it. I would have to agree. I am a member of a gym here, and I've been a member of this gym for almost a year, and I signed an original contract. I don't even remember what I signed for, because the price now is so much different, and it just kept increasing and increasing, and they never asked us if we were okay with the increase. They never asked us if we wanted to like leave the lease or the contract. They were just literally like, all right, it's being increased. The price of your gym membership is being increased starting, I don't know, July or whatever the date was. And I was like, I signed the contract. How could you raise the price if I signed the contract on this price? But I guess it's just common here. It's happened a few times with my gym. So please let me know if it's common here. I know with like renting, like if you sign a contract, like there can be incremental rent increases, like quarterly or half year or something like that. Like I understand that, but for the contract that I signed with the gym, there was nothing about that. So I went in thinking I locked in this price for like 6 months or a year. And then like 2 months later, it was increased. So that was another shock to me. But one positive thing I want to say, like culture shocks can be, they don't necessarily have to be negative. They can be positive, and sometimes like they're just neutral. Like it's just a shock. It's just something I didn't expect, but something very positive and something that I like a lot here, and something that has allowed me to like leave my comfort zone and grow, I think, as a person and be more confident, not only like in myself and like being around other people, but also in my Spanish, is how often people greet each other here. Coming from New York, like no one says hi in the elevator. No one says hi when you walk into the supermarket. No one says adios, ciao, bye when you're leaving something. Here, if I cross someone in the hallway, even if I've never seen them before, like in my building, we say hi, we say hola. If I walk into a supermarket, I say hola. If I walk into a restaurant I'm about to eat in or a cafe, I'm like, buen dia. Like I'm always greeting the people here. I'm always saying goodbye when I'm leaving too. In New York, it is not like that. Like you walk in, you do your thing, you leave, you do your thing. Like you're very to yourself. And I really appreciate like how nice people are here. And they like look at you like as a human being, like you are someone, and they do greet you and they do acknowledge you. So it was like a little bit shocking at first, but I've grown to really like it. So like even if I leave the house, if I'm having like a not good day for whatever reason, like if I go to an elevator and someone's like, hola, buen dia, I'm like, hola. And I don't know, it's just like a mood booster to me because it's like someone acknowledging to me, and I just think it's really, really nice. We are still in the life and money category. We have been talking for about 15 minutes so far. And I still have a few more things that I wanted to talk about too. One thing that I do notice, and I think I really appreciate, is that everything has its own store. In New York, there's like Target, TJ Maxx, Walmart, and like those stores that like it's one big store and it has everything. Here it's like if I want paper, I go to the paper store. If I want a book, I go to the bookstore. If I want cooking equipment, I go to the cooking equipment store. If I want a hardware, a hammer, nails, tape, I go to the hardware store. Like there is a specific store for every single thing here, and Michael and I were just talking about this before I sat down to do this video. There is one street, I forget where it is, and it's like 4 or 5 streets long of just like mannequins that you can buy. Like if you have like a clothing store and you want mannequins to like put the clothes on, there are mannequin stores, which I think is so funny. A necessity, yes, but still very funny. But everything has its own store here, and it's kind of nice. A lot of you guys have left comments on my previous videos saying that it makes it like better, like it's more affordable if like I were to buy nails at the hardware store versus going to like Easy or something. So that's another thing that I noticed too. And I have seen this one kind of posted in the WhatsApp groups. I wanted to bring it up. I don't really think that I agree with this one, but some people say like the customer service here like isn't that good. I have had like really good interactions with the customer service here. I know other foreigners have said, not all foreigners, but other people have said that there is not really good customer service here. I do not agree with that. But one thing I do find interesting is that there are so many customer services interactions that happen through WhatsApp. Like there's a WhatsApp for every single business. I think we set up our Wi-Fi through WhatsApp. I've set up doctors and dentist appointments through WhatsApp. Everything is like through WhatsApp here. So I've even tried like to do like the soup day card through the WhatsApp. For me, it didn't work. For other people, it worked, but I thought that was really funny too, that even the soup day card has a WhatsApp where like you can refill your soup day or register your soup day or whatever the case may be. With that, I also have noticed, and I don't know what this means, but in parks and different plazas, if there's construction going on, there's always like a sign stating like this is the law, and it kind of tells you something about the law. Like for example, in a park, it was like law, I don't know, ABC. Dogs cannot be allowed in here without the muzzle according to this law. So I feel that here in Buenos Aires, there are so many laws posted. So I think it's kind of nice that like it's not just some random person telling you you can't do this. It's letting you know that it is the law, that you can't do whatever the case may be. And again, it varies wherever you go, but I always see a law posted like every single day on a park, on a construction site, just everywhere. So I found that really interesting too, because in New York, like I don't think I could tell you a single law, not because I don't know them, but like they weren't really posted around like that. So like it's kind of nice that like for me, like, oh, like I understand why this is like this because I'm looking at the law and I can read the wording of the law. So for me, it's very informative, and I get to practice my Spanish so often, of course, while living here. But I find that very interesting too. And outside, I just mentioned the Spanish thing. Of course, the Argentine Spanish shocked me a little bit. I was not used to Argentine Spanish or slang before I came here, and that was very shocking and honestly a huge flag that like I needed to get accustomed with the Spanish very quickly. I studied in Spain, I studied in Ecuador. I have never listened to like Argentine music before coming here. I never watched any Argentine shows before coming here. So I really was unaware that the accent and the pronunciation of words was so different. So that was a huge shock for me, for someone who was already learning Spanish before I came here. Huge shock. Another thing that I noticed, and this is me coming from New York, where New Jersey drivers are a huge like meme, honestly, because driving around New Jersey drivers is like almost impossible. I'm saying this in a nice way. If you're from Jersey, sending you love, but you know what I mean. Here, the driving in Argentina or in Buenos Aires specifically is like, I don't know how someone can get into her car and go on the street and drive their car, because it makes no sense to me. Like people are very fast, people don't have a lot of patience from what I see, people are honking all the time, people are like tailgating people all the time. They don't let pedestrians walk, like there is no pedestrian right to the road at all. And this is me coming from New York, where if I'm walking on the crosswalk and I'm like, hit me, I'm in the crosswalk, there's nothing you can do about it, please hit me. Here, it's like they don't stop for a pedestrian. Like the idea of the crosswalk, it just does not exist. And I kid you not, I have seen, because I cross by many of these when walking with Max to the dog park every single day, there are so many stop signs in the city and people just don't stop at the stop sign. Like multiple cars, like just keep going and keep going and keep going. So for me, I deal with this every single day. If you're someone who drives in Buenos Aires, I quite honestly don't know how you do it, because it seems impossible to me. Even while walking, like sometimes it is impossible to cross the street because no one will stop for you. And I'm not even talking about like if there's a red light, green light, like no, like even if there's no light and it's just like pedestrian versus cars, no cars will stop. Like I will have to wait there for like 5 or so minutes before a car lets me go. So that has been one of the most shocking things of my experience, because I walk in the city every single day, especially with Max. And sometimes like I get really scared walking with Max when no cars are stopping for us. We're learning though. We have made very good progress with getting across the street as a pedestrian, but it shocks me every single day. I think I have been just as shocked, and I still am just as shocked from the first day that I got here. Like I still cannot believe how people drive here. It is mind-blowing in my opinion. We are surprisingly still in the life and money category. One thing that I notice is a lot of students, I don't know if this is all students, but I see a lot of students around wear uniforms. In my mind, I think every single school has to have a uniform, and students have to buy that uniform and wear that uniform every single day to school. In US, there are public schools where there aren't uniforms. There's private schools where there are uniforms. I don't know if the students that I see are all a part of a private school and they all have to wear uniforms, but like I literally see students from all different grade levels wearing a uniform every single day to school. I think it's very sweet. Michael and I talk about this, like it's very sweet when like a mom is like holding their child's hand, or like a mom, like an adult mom is holding like her mom's hand. Like there's a lot of hand holding here when like people are walking, and I find that to be very sweet. There is a huge emphasis on relations here and social interactions. Like, people make time to step away from work and spend time with their families and their loved ones. And that to me has helped me grow so much. Like, in my own personal life, it's allowed me to step away from work, take time away from work, find a better work-life balance, and spend more time with my loved ones and my families and make time for me as well. So living here, like, I have learned to balance my life, my work-life balance so much better. In New York, I was very work focused. Like, I really didn't do anything. Before I left New York, I was working like 60 to 70 hours a week. I was so emotionally, mentally, physically tired. Like, I could not do anything else. But here I have learned to find a beautiful balance, and I have been so happy with it. And finally, the very last thing that I wanted to talk about in the life and money category is the fact that when I signed up for the gym, we're going back to the gym for a quick second because I forgot to mention it, is that I had to do like an apto physico, which is like, I think, a physical certification health exam to make sure like I was physically fit to be able to go to the gym. And I know a Buenos Aires marathon just happened here, and people who wanted to run in the marathon also had to get like an apto physico as well, like your health certificate checklist thing. In New York, you can go to the gym. There's always something saying like, check with your doctor to make sure you're okay to go to the gym. Here, like, I was surprised when they told me like I actually had to go to a doctor to make sure like physically I was clear to go to the gym. So that's something that I've noticed too. Honestly, my apto physico is gonna run out and need to be renewed in like 5 months. So I'm gonna have to do that again. But when I went, it was very easy. I think it costed me like 12-ish thousand pesos. I was in and out in like 10 or 15 minutes, and then I gave it to my gym and it was all okay. But it was just surprising that I had to go and do it anyways. This video is going to be so long, and you guys probably already know how long it is, but I'm filming it right now, and I just got done with the clip that took me 25 minutes to record. And that was all life and money. We are finally done with the life and money category. I had a lot of things to talk about. I've had experienced a lot of culture shocks here. But now we're gonna move into one of my favorite categories to talk about ever, which is food. Before coming to Argentina, I did not know that there was a huge Italian heritage here. So when I saw that so many restaurants were offering pizza and pastas and a lot of Italian food, it shocked me because it's not like the Latin American food that I was familiar with. But very quickly I learned that it's because there's a huge Italian descendant here. And I love the food, don't get me wrong, I really do love the food. But specifically, one thing that still surprises me is the fact that jamón y queso, ham and cheese here, is so big. There is a ham and cheese meal for every single time of the day. There's always some type of ham and cheese offering. It is so surprising to me how creative people can be to come up with a ham and cheese food item here because it's so popular. Like in the US, like I had ham and cheese sandwiches, but like there are so many ham and cheese offerings here. It's funny, I appreciate it and I respect it, but it's so interesting to me because in New York, it was like I had a ham and cheese sandwich like 4 times a year. And here there's like always a ham and cheese option. With that cafe culture, I love that cafe is so big here. I love that drinking coffee, spending time with friends, and all that is really popular here. So when I found out that there were so many cafe offerings, that the coffee was so good, I was so happy. I go to a cafe probably like 2 or 3 times a week. I bring a book and I just read, and I just love it. So whoever came up with the cafe culture here, you guys are doing it right. I 100% appreciate it. Thank you so much. And when going into a restaurant, it was very surprising to me. Like I remember the first time I came here, I was like walking to the restaurant and like, I think I was just like waiting for like someone to tell me where to sit, but that's not how it works here. You just seat yourself. Most times you seat yourself. Like for casual restaurants, just about every restaurant you seat yourself. Sometimes if it's a nicer restaurant and you make a reservation, they have it already organized, but for the most part, you seat yourself and then you ask for the check when you're all done. Now, when Michael and I first came here and like we were having our first dinner, I don't even know how long we waited to like until we realized that we had to ask for the check. Like I think we were watching other people to be like, how are they leaving? How are they paying? No one has come to our table to offer us a check. You have to ask for it yourself, which again is something I really appreciate because no one is rushing you. It's not like, oh, let me take your plates, let me take your cups, let me put the check on the table, and then let's get you out of here so the next people can come in. It's not like that. And I really appreciate it, especially when I go to a cafe and I just want to bring a book and I just want to sip a coffee for like an hour or so. No one rushes me. They just kind of let me do my thing. And then I ask for the check. And then when I'm ready to leave, I head out. So I really like that. In New York, it is not like that at all. I always felt rushed, like leaving a restaurant because they give you your food really quickly. They take away the food very quickly. And they give you the check very quickly. And then you're out very quickly. So I really appreciate like the slow pace of enjoying your food and enjoying the experience of being in the restaurant. It's really, really nice. And Michael and I, we are not night people, but we have been pushing ourselves to go out and try different restaurants at night because here, you probably already know this if you're staying up until this point of the video and you've been watching for like 15 or so minutes so far, is that restaurants here, dinner is very, very late. Dinner starts at like 9-ish, 8-ish, 10-ish at night, depending what restaurant you go to. That when restaurants open late, if they open at like 7:30 or 8 o'clock, they're only open for like 4 or 5 hours a day. Like if you go to a dinner restaurant and they're only open from like 7:30 to like, I don't know, 11:30, and that's it. Like you can't go there for lunch. You obviously can't go there for breakfast. Like you only have like a 4-hour period that you can go to that restaurant. In New York, there's a lot of like lunch dinner restaurants where like they're open from like 11 in the morning to like 11 at night. So if you don't go for dinner, you could at least try the food for lunch. But here it's like you gotta go for dinner because it's only open for like 4 hours at the end of the day. So we have been pushing ourselves to try a lot of restaurants by going out to eat dinner later at night. And to compare New York and Argentina once again, here the eggs and the milk, like if you go to the grocery store, the eggs and the milk are not in the fridge. Like you just pick them up from the aisle and you don't have to put them in the fridge. Michael and I do put them in the fridge. In New York, you like could not buy a carton of eggs or a thing of milk without it being directly from the fridge. Michael and I were just talking about this. We think that maybe it has to do with the fact that there's no preservatives on the eggs here, but in the US we think that there are. And if there's preservatives on the eggs, like you have to put them in the fridge. But here, like, no eggs are in the fridge and no milk is in the fridge in the supermarket. We always put them in the fridge, but it's interesting to see that they aren't in the fridge when we buy them. And finally, the last food thing I wanted to talk about was the pedidos ya and like the Rappi bike riders, which I think is so cool. But like where I'm from in New York, like you did not see like people delivering food on a bike. And here it's like to see them have like that big food carton container on the back of their bike and like they're just riding around. Like I think it's so interesting. And these people ride their bike so quickly. So I gotta give a shout out to the pedidos ya and the Rappi drivers. You do not have an easy job, but every time I see you riding around on the streets of Buenos Aires, like I really do respect it. And I'm like in awe of you guys because that is, it's not an easy job. It is really not. But you guys do it so well. Every Rappi driver I've had, every pedidos ya order that I made, like the people have been like very, very nice. So I've had really good interactions with the app, with the drivers, and with the restaurants too. So that has been working really well. You don't need a DNI for that. You don't need a DNI to get food for that. But for other things, you do. I'm gonna open up the window. So if you guys hear birds or something going on out there, it is just so hot. It's like I'm filming this at like 10:30 in the morning, but the sun is starting to rise and it's getting hotter, but I'm almost done. You guys have been dealing with my yap session for probably far too long, but if you're here, I hope you're enjoying it. Give it a thumbs up if you are, leave a comment down below, and subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so already. But now we are going to get into, again, one of my favorite categories, which is pet and parks. You guys know I have two pets, my dog, Max, and my cat, Polka, who came with me from New York. And we go to a lot of parks, not just with Max, but like also on picnics, Michael and I. And I always say that when I first came to Buenos Aires, I vacationed here in July of 2022, and I had one perspective, just vacationing here. In July of 2023, I decided to move here. We moved here, and with Max, with Polka, with Michael, and I've earned a new perspective. So I used to say in July of 2022, when I was vacationing here, that Buenos Aires was so dog friendly. So dog friendly. Everyone had a dog. Dogs could go everywhere. Dogs are everywhere. That's what I thought. But then when I moved here, I earned a different perspective. And now I think that Buenos Aires is dog friendly. And I say that because there are so many restrictions on how and when you can bring your dog on the public transportation system, like the soup day, for example. I don't think you can bring your dog on the colectivo, on the bus, or on the train either. But for the soup day, technically you're only allowed to bring your dog on the soup day starting on Saturday at 1:30 or 1 p.m. in the afternoon and Sunday. Like, you can't bring them on the soup day during the week, and you can only bring them half the day on Saturday. So for us, that's very difficult because we would love to go to more places with Max, like go to different dog parks around the city, but we always have to plan for it. And I do still think that Buenos Aires is dog friendly, but I don't think it's as dog friendly as I first thought so. I see a lot of dog walkers, there are a lot of dog parks, but I think just the fact that dogs aren't allowed on like the subway station more often, like especially throughout the week, it's like, how can it be really dog friendly if I can't even take my dog from one part of the city to the next one? That's just my own personal opinion. Let me know your opinion down below, but I would love the fact that if I could take Max on the subway more. And I don't mind putting him in a bag if I need to. We do have a bag for him, but sometimes I think of dog owners who have like a golden retriever, and like you can't put your golden retriever in a bag. Like, it would just be impossible. So like they really can't go on the subway at all. And like sometimes we see dogs on there on the weekends, like bigger dogs, and no one says anything, they just let them on. But there are some people, you know, and some workers who are just doing their job, and they're like, hey, you can't come in here, your dog doesn't have like a muzzle on them, or your dog isn't in a bag, which again, I get, like they're just doing their job, but some people do let it slide, and it's fine. But I would love to see that. I would love to see that like be fixed to allow more dogs to be allowed like on the subway. I get it, like if they can't go on the bus, like that's fine. Like I do get it, the bus is already crowded with like the amount of people on there. But the subway, I think we can allow some more leeway for that, but that's just my opinion. I talked about the dog walkers, like one dog walker having like 20 dogs like walking at one time. That blows my mind every single time, because me just walking Max, like it's a challenge sometimes just to walk him because he smells so many things. He likes to look at so many things. So imagine like walking 20 dog walkers or 20 dogs at one time. Like, that is a hard job. Like, I really have to give respect where respect is due and where credit needs to be given, because that cannot be easy. Like that's a big job. That is a huge job. But there are so many dog parks, there are so many parks, and I say this because there aren't just so many parks, but there's so many parks that are being used. In New York, where I'm from, there were an okay amount of parks. I wouldn't say there were a lot. I wouldn't say there were a few amount of parks. I would say there was an okay amount of parks. But even though there were parks, like they really weren't being used. Like there weren't families there weren't picnics happening, there weren't playgrounds, there weren't a lot of people taking their dogs there. Here, it's like, oh my gosh, like I go to a park and it's a beautiful thing. There are people sipping mates, having a picnic, reading a book, tanning, playing with their kids, hanging out with their dogs, soaking in the sun. Like, it is so heartwarming to see that all of the parks here and plazas are being used. Like, I love that. In New York, like I've always loved to do that. When I was little, my mom always took us to parks. And yes, there were other kids at the parks too, but I think like now with like, I don't want to get into the tech generation and we have a lot of iPad kids, but I think that in total there are just like less people going to parks in New York. So for here to see so many families at the parks, like, and just people using the parks, like I think it is such a beautiful thing. So I love going to parks. You guys know we have been to so many parks. I show it in my vlogs all the time, especially now that the weather is so nice. And it makes my heart so, so happy. And with that, while walking in the park or walking on the street, there are a lot of trees for shade. And one, it's beautiful. Like the trees here are so beautiful, especially when they turn like that purple color. But two, it's nice. Whoever like works on planning the city did it, I think, so well, because they were thinking about like what it would be like to be someone who walks in the city on these sidewalks. You guys know that in summer, the sun is so brutally hot. I have never experienced a sunbeam as hot as the one here in Argentina. Like the rays that come from the sun, I don't know like how the sun is positioned or like why it's like that, but the sun here is so strong, so much stronger than what it was in New York, that you need to walk in shade or else like you're going to burn to a crisp and you're not going to be able to walk. Whoever like helped with designing the city did it so well because there are so many trees that offer shade. So if you're walking down on the sidewalk, like there is shade for you while you're walking. And it's so pretty, but also it's very practical. I do find that a lot of things here in Buenos Aires, like they weren't just made to be pretty, but they were also made to be practical, like for the people who are walking the streets of Buenos Aires every single day. So that's one that Michael and I talk about so often, is that we can walk in shade. Like who would have thought? Like whoever designed the city, I think this is like my 17th time saying it, you did a good job. I gotta give credit where credit is due. You did a good job. You did your thing. And I'm sure that the more I live here in Buenos Aires, the more shocks I'm going to experience, the more cultural differences I'm going to experience. But after living here for a year and a half, these are some of the most shocking things that have made an impact on me from living here since moving here for a year and a half. I cannot believe that I've been here for a year and a half, and I have just enjoyed documenting my journey here with you guys. You guys are awesome. You always give us tips, advice. You allow us to better understand the city and like these cultural differences. I feel like we have learned a lot just from the recommendations and the comments that you guys leave. So you guys have been very helpful like in our journey and moving abroad and living here. So thank you so much. If you've enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a like. Comment down below, what are your cultural shocks that you experienced living from a different country or living here in Buenos Aires. And if you haven't done so yet, please make sure to subscribe because I would love to have you here for the long run. And next week we're probably going to be doing a more vlog-ish style video. So I hope you've enjoyed this one and I'll see you in the next one. If you're new to we bought it. We didn't buy it. I need a drink. Wow. And to find a